sent you something a little different as a react since next week is Shark Week.
Shark Week. Editor Week. I'm gonna eat you week. What? Making me react to something that contradicts what I've said. Okay? I feel called out just a little bit.
In the last few years, you might have seen any one of these videos about the Megalodon still being alive. Evidence of sightings. Threads about how they're probably somehow living somewhere in the Mariana Trench. This is all complete garbage, and actually inspired me to start a new series.
I'm not saying it exists. I'm saying maybe a distant ancestor. My viewpoint is that something between a great white and a megalodon exists, but it's set like near the bottom of the Marianas Trench. It's like adapted, similar to like what the great white is, where the great white's mostly just howling, you know? Although the whale shark kind of fits my criteria, honestly, because it's whale shark bigger than the great white.
This is episode 1. So, welcome to JUNKSPIRACIES, where we tackle animal conspiracies that are all based on a bunch of junk. Despite being debunked constantly, beaten to a pulp, some might say, this conspiracy is still very much alive and well. Videos on YouTube of like, top 10 videos proving the Megalodon's still alive. I get tagged in stuff on TikTok that's like, scientists proving that Megalodon is still alive, constantly. And while I've debunked them multiple times on TikTok, I decided it was time to do it in an
Whale sharks are filter feeders, aren't they? I think they are. What I'm saying is, my theory is, it's not exactly the Megalodon that's alive, it's something below that. It's not as big as the Megalodon, because obviously that couldn't exist anymore. But it's bigger than the great white. The great white exists and is perfectly fine existing. What I'm saying is, I think there's something that eat orcas. Orcas eat great whites. What's above an orca? Many things, right?
expanded format. So, buckle up. I'm going to break down all the reasons why this conspiracy came to be, and all the reasons it is absolutely false.
But also, the whale shark kind of fits what I say, because if I'm not wrong, I think it's bigger than the great white. And because it's bigger, everything.
Points, I'll probably get a little bit pissed off, because nothing pisses me off more than a bunch of junk. So once again, my name is Lindsay Nikole, and this is JUNKSPIRACIES. The Megalodon is still alive. Let's get the general information.
Those who don't understand, the Megalodon's huge. Megalodon's mouth is like as big as the side of a building. Like its teeth are. It was like one of the apex predators of prehistoric ocean. Apex predator down there is the colossal squid. Isn't the most dangerous animal down there the devil squid? It's like a red squid with like 4 or 3 tentacles. It's like just so fast that it can take down fossils. And it looks like blood red. Been down at the bottom of the ocean.
Out of the way.
All I'm saying is that's a lot of squid. Man, maybe something there exists there, you know? To be fair, we've only discussed, explored what? 2% of our ocean or something like that? Something really small? Totally could.
If for some reason you've never heard of the Megalodon or know very little.
There you go. There's the proof that it's as big as a building. Humboldt squid. They aren't big. They hunt and axe. I thought it was like singular ones that were just like blood red. They were just like spears. They would like take whatever they wanted out and then like they were gone.
About it, I envy you. But today that will end. I'm gonna give you the neutral facts as an overview, so we all know what the fuck is going on as we move forward. Megalodon was a massive predator.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great white. That's a megalodon. That's an elephant. That's a megalodon. See what I mean by big as the side of a building, right?
BTW, if you ever want to go cage diving, just let me know, lol.
Off the side of Australia? Hell no.
predatory shark that existed from like 23 to 3.6 million years ago. Maybe until 2.5 million years ago, but still, millions of years ago, nonetheless. They're the largest predatory fish to ever exist, that we know of, and might have had the strongest bite force of any animal alive ever that we know of, with max estimates putting it at like 40,000 pounds per square inch. Compared to our puny 120 pounds per square inch, that is still powerful enough to bite off a pinky finger. 40,000, dude, they were not fucking around. That is...
Give you an idea, they could bite a building in half and it would not be a problem.
Come on, I cannot be the only one who's thinking this, right?
I feel like it would just taste like great white. I've eaten great white. It's like a very sweet and savory fish.
Fucked up. Most of the fossilized remains we've found of them are teeth. That's the deal with sharks, as we've talked about a couple times on this channel. But there are some really well-preserved skeletal elements as well, like jaw fragments. Their teeth have been found in most ocean basins and on every continent except Antarctica, and in some cases have been found embedded in the fossils of their prehistoric prey, whales and seals. So clearly they were tearing shit up globally for like 20 million years. And how about their size? I haven't told you how big they were yet. In the last video I did on the Megalodon, I went a little more in depth on what they had going on and how scientists figure out how big they were using their teeth. If you want to learn more about that, check it out here. And also to learn about their...
Realize that sharks regrow their teeth. So there's no real proof that those were the biggest teeth.
Only known competitor and potential predator, the Leviathan whale. Anyway, their max size estimates historically were like 80 to 90 feet. Those turned out to be way too big. So now they range between like 30 to 65 feet, which is likely the kind of size variation that existed anyway between...
Yeah, 65 feet, that's about a building.
Individuals. So, the Megalodon was a big shark. Also, their scientific name is Otodus megalodon. So, their common name comes from their species name, Megalodon. You can either call them Megalodon or the Megalodon. I want to make it clear that when I say the Megalodon, I'm talking about a whole species and not just one fucking shark that some people think still exists in the Mariana Trench. A single shark that's been alive for like 3 million years. Anyway, in order to reach this level...
To be fair, there are sharks that are still alive. They were alive back then. At least I think so. I think I've heard that some sharks have... I know alligators are definitely one of them, where alligators haven't really evolved since back then.
Level of supremacy. They evolved over the years as highly active predators. They're estimated to have been able to reach burst speeds of 23 miles per hour, and were partially endothermic, i.e. produced their own body heat, i.e. were warm-blooded, which means they had an appetite like nobody's business. And so they must have perused the more shallow coastal waters, where the vast majority of marine life exists today, in order to maintain their diet. I need you to remember all of this, because as we go through some of these
yeah, but I'm saying like I'm thinking like a whale, thinking closer to a whale shark in that they don't eat meat much anymore. They eat like shrimp and stuff.
conspiracy ideas. I want us to be able to have shared moments.
Kind of like whales. Whales eat kelp. They're gigantic. They could pop out of the water and stuff.
The Megalodon is Gorgora's mother.
These sharks were fucking bulldozers in the oceans, and the idea that they could somehow still be alive in an elusive, mysterious fashion today, 2024, is fucking insane. So, where did it all begin? What chain of events led us, as a society, astray? Buckle up, because this is nuts.
What led us astray? TikTok.
Megalodon has been known to science since like the 1800s. And before that, actually, quick sidebar, before plate tectonics were like known as a thing, people would find shark teeth on hillsides or wherever, like away from the ocean, and they weren't registered as shark teeth because they were so far from the ocean. They thought these teeth kind of resembled human tongues, so they were known as tongue stones or the devil's tongue. And they would be placed in a village overnight, and then in the morning it would be like, oh my god, a devil's tongue. And it was seen as a bad omen, or like somebody had done something wrong, and it would just cause all this drama, like a witch hunt. And then years went on, and eventually some people were like, those kind of look like shark's teeth. And then others were like, that's insane. Until eventually a Swiss naturalist by the name of Nikole brought proof of them in the form of a shark's mouth and said, tongue stones. And boom, tongue stones debunked. And Megalodon teeth were included in those tongue stones. So, that's cool. That's one of my favorite things I learned in my paleontology class, so thought I'd tell you. Anyway, Megalodon had been known to science since the 1800s, and some of their fossilized teeth were even collected on the HMS Challenger back in 1875. Remember that trip that also found out the Mariana Trench is deep as fuck? Very big trip for humanity. But these teeth would also turn out to be a big deal, and provide the first junk evidence for the continued existence of the Megalodon. In 1959, a known cryptozoologist by the name Vladimir Chernetsky dated the teeth using a method that scientists quickly pointed out was all sorts of messed up. I don't want to go into it because there's a lot more I want to cover in this video other than the teeth, but if you want to read more on why the technique was messed up, check out this paper. This paper also provided a lot of other great information for this video. So anyway, the fucked up dating technique led to Chernetsky to the conclusion.
I can't say that name. Don't even look at me. Don't even ask. I'm not gonna be able to say it.
That one of the teeth was 24,267 years old, and the other was 11,333 years old. He was off by millions of years.
Well, I've done all I can do.
Even though multiple scientists
Yes, Patrick.
scientists disproved this technique later on, the damage had been done. And this was the first real start to the conspiracy that the Megalodon is still alive. Dude, and I see people using these exact teeth as evidence to this day, like as if they were discovered yesterday. It's insane. But the biggest culprits of this conspiracy have been the sightings. And this is probably the side you're more familiar with as well. Despite the existence of whale sharks and basking sharks, you know, the other large, chill sharks alive today, any apparent sighting of a large shark bigger than your average gray white tends to get classified as hard Megalodon evidence by your average clickbait conspiracy theorist. And this phenomenon can be traced all the way back to 1963, a book called Sharks and Rays of the Australian Seas by marine biologist David Steed. Is it
Imagine getting eaten by one of them.
Steed or Stead? Stead. Yes, marine biologist. And you bet your ass this story comes up on every proof video on YouTube because of that. I actually watched one of those top 10 fucking stupid videos on YouTube just to get my footing, and this is the first story that came up as, like, #1 proof. So, now my entire feed is conspiracy videos, so this series is gonna be thick if you want it to be. Let me know. Let me know if you want more conspiracy videos. Anyway, David retold this story in his book that he heard back in 1918 on an island off the coast of Australia. The story came from some fishermen who had a boat and some 3.5-foot wide lobster pots that could each hold a few dozen lobsters. Big pots, lots of lobster. As the story goes, they had just encountered a massive white shark. Not a great white, but a white shark. White-colored shark. One fisherman said the shark was 115 feet long, and the other said it was 300 feet long. Just to recap, there has never been an animal in the history of anything ever to be 300 feet long that we know of. Not even
Lobster.
close.
Oh, hush. But I can see the hyperbole of 300 feet. I could see that both of them were scared and, like, overblew its size.
They said over the course of a few days, the shark would repeatedly come back,
Wagon.
ate the lobster pots whole, and also took a bite out of the boat. And David, the marine biologist, said, hey, their sizes are a bit off, but the rest of it, I believe it. Sounds like evidence that the Megalodon is still alive. And I'm a marine biologist, so I will put that in my book, case closed. Well, luckily, that paper I mentioned that talks about the teeth stuff also talks about this sighting. The author, by the way, is paleontologist Tyler Greenfield, and he found some interesting stuff. But let's cover the basic shit first.
Incorrect.
Like I said, the sizes
There was
are nuts.
Godzilla, who is much taller.
Oh, of immortal lobster? That's what I'm saying, Bonnie, is that I don't think the Megalodon itself exists. Besides, we have scarier things. What I'm saying is, I think there's something that's maybe still pretty big, but not Megalodon size. Like, say in the middle. Think slightly bigger than an orca. Think bigger than a great white, but smaller than, like, maybe a whale.
The biggest blue whale ever recorded was 115 feet long. Whale sharks alive today can get to like 60 feet long, but even if for some...
The whale shark probably fits what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm just thinking,
some reason they exaggerated a whale shark size. The description and the behaviors don't match up. Great white sharks could potentially display behaviors like that, but they've only been recorded at max 23 feet long. They're also in the area, so they would be familiar with a great white shark. So then theoretically they would have said it's a great white. So none of it adds up. But turns out there was also a newspaper article written about this sighting that Tyler mentioned in his paper. The article was written on January 30th, 1918 in the Sydney Evening News. In that same newspaper was a different article about a huge monsoon that had just affected the same area. Strong winds, flooding, classic monsoon shit is definitely powerful enough to damage some fishing equipment. But those damages could easily be seen as more avoidable or due to improper storage, putting the fault on the fishermen for the damages to the boat by some theoretical higher up of their fishing company. So with the storm in mind, what seems more likely? A record-breaking, giant, albino great white damaging the same boat over the course of a few days, or that the story was made up to avoid paying for the damaged equipment that the storm fucked up because you didn't store it properly.
I don't know if I like that theory though, because they're talking to a scientist that's just going around looking at stuff. I don't feel like you make up that story to a scientist. Back then, people were, like, sadly, held science a little bit higher in regard. And I feel like, Bunny, that's what I'm saying. Because we haven't really explored all of the bottom of the ocean. Like, there's vast amounts of the ocean we haven't explored. I could see just, like, a very few amount of them, because it probably... Like how the colossal squids are, where there's only a few of them. I could see there just being a few of the sharks. But, like I said, to be fair, the whale shark kind of fits my idea of what it would be. Whale with a tail, shut up.
Hard to say. I know. Let me know what you think in the comments. It sucks that David was a marine biologist because it gave this story in his book immediate credibility. And that is what sucks about conspiracy theories. People can find one person, like one doctor or one scientist, who has an insane idea that goes against everything everyone else in their field.
To be fair, a lot of the reason they're able to use those people is because sometimes it was one scientist that had this idea and it turned out to be correct. That's why they do this. Like, do I need to mention Newton and gravity and stuff like that? Like, there are there are times where it was just one scientist that was like, holy crap, this is my idea. This is what I think is happening. This is my theory. And everyone's like, you're an idiot. You're stupid. A few years later after they're dead, or even like they're still alive, holy crap, they're right. Need I remind you guys that for a while, a lot of scientists thought that the entire universe revolved around the Earth. And then one scientist was like, I feel like it's the sun that we're revolving around. They were like, you're stupid! I feel like, maybe? Yeah. Just saying.
Knows to be true, and people will latch on to that one person because of the title they have. And like, yes, science is all about looking into crazy ideas, but a scientist with crazy ideas is not always right just because they're...
Doesn't matter. Some people will grab at that.
In one sense, it does.
Like, people will grab at anything to prove their theory. I don't grab at everything because I know my theory is kind of doesn't hold much water, but I feel like it holds a little bit. Like, once we explore a lot more of the ocean and there's no sign of this shark, I'll stop saying that it exists. But I feel like it does. Just like I'm pretty sure dragons used to exist. Because how would you explain every single, like, continent, like, when they're all split up, back then, all somehow coming up with the idea of dragons? the same time, and they're all looking similar. Hello? We exist.
Scientists, and that is why the peer review process exists, so other scientists can analyze those ideas and figure out if there's any basis to them. Stop finding one person with credentials and thinking that everything they're saying is true if everything they're saying is going against what everyone else in their field knows to be true. It's fucking crazy. But anyway, let's move on. Because while that initial hypothesis has definitely added fuel to the fire, it seems a lot more reasonable to blame modern mainstream media for what this conspiracy exists as today. There's no doubt that fictional stories influence what people think is actually real. Like, dude, Ice Age was definitely telling us something.
You're saying that maybe some dinosaurs survived? What I think happened, you're gonna call me crazy theorist here, Boka.
You do have to admit that the fact that multiple mythologies, with no means of contact with each other, do suspiciously have a lot of dragons in them.
All I'm saying is, maybe. Meow. We realize that dragons are magical, right? Maybe dragons realized that humans were crazy and crackpot, gonna eat everything and kill everything, and we're like, we don't want to deal with that.
Bokathedragon.
Because they're smart. No, we're smart god. We're smart dragons. And we just poof.
There are definitely dinosaurs living in the center of the earth, and the government is hiding it from us. Thank God Ice Age is telling us the truth. And that definitely happened with movies like Jaws, or the one that's really on the nose, The Meg. Yes, the 2.5-star movie is telling us something the government doesn't want us to know. Don't clip that. But what I'm actually much more disappointed in, and would imagine has done a lot more damage, is the fact that 10 years ago, a fake documentary was made.
No, we all poop.
Chinese mythology has dragons be made out to be protectors of sacred sites and sharers of wisdom instead.
Yeah, so they all tend to be very smart.
Using photoshopped pictures, CGI videos, and actors hired to play the roles as scientists to claim that the Megalodon is still alive, and it was aired on Discovery Channel. There's a really good chance you've seen it. At the time in 2013, it was like their most watched Shark Week segment ever. It's called Megalodon, the monster shark lives. And it looks like every other documentary you'd watch on Discovery, except for a 2-second disclaimer at the end of the movie that doesn't really take any direct accountability for any of it being fake. I actually bought it on YouTube. It was like $3, just for context because I never saw it when it first aired. But the disclaimer wasn't on the YouTube version at all. They said they dramatized things to explore the legend, but what the fuck does that mean? Nothing, really. Despite being berated by thousands of people from multiple angles, Discovery doubled down and came out with a part 2 like the next year, titled Megalodon, the new evidence, which was definitely the right decision for them to make. And I don't know at what point this happened because I could only find screen grabs of it, but at some point they put out a poll on their website to their Megalodon viewers asking if they think the Megalodon is still alive, and 70% said yes.
To be fair to those people and stuff, and like I've said, we haven't explored, what is it, like 50% of our ocean or something? It's a big number. I know that. Could it be like a smaller, less violent version of the Megalodon? I feel like that's possible.
70%, dude. I just can't believe they did that. Honestly, it's just insane. Like, you claim to be a reliable science network and then you pull shit like that. I don't know. I just feel like if you're gonna claim to be a reliable...
I feel like around that time is when they started getting taken over by those entertainment companies, isn't it? I could be wrong.
Network, you should probably commit to that. I know I'm kind of ranting, but I think the main problem we can identify here is that we view channels like Discovery as a collection of scientists or people in science, because that's what their programming is about. But at the end of the day, people running...
I'll record the next video, but I forgot to record this one.
Discovery are not scientists or people in science. They're not the people in your favorite Discovery show. They're people in entertainment. And people in entertainment generally don't give a shit about what's true or not. They care about what's entertaining. Part of me kind of feels bad for saying this, like maybe I'm being too harsh. But you know what? No. They had a nerve to make a sequel. Discovery, you have some fucking nerve. You deliberately misinformed millions of people and then doubled down. Shame. Shame.
You're shaming Discovery. Shaming Discovery, which like I said, I think around that time is when they started getting taken over by entertainment companies.
Shame, shame. And like I said, I bought it
Wait, the carpet? What are you talking about?
because I had a sneaking suspicion that all of the proof videos I keep getting tagged in are clips from that documentary. Sorry, documentary. So I watched it, well, skimmed through it, and what do you know? My hypothesis was correct. So before I show you some of the most viral clips, I want to show you this guy, marine biologist Colin.
She's doing the hand quotation marks. That means she doesn't believe he's a marine biologist.
Drake, the star of the show. As you would suspect, he is not a marine biologist, but an actor from South Africa named Darren Meyer, who has a decently sized portfolio on IMDb. He got cast to play a role in a film, as actors do. Nothing wrong with that, but I want you to burn this image of him in your brain, so that next time you see new Megalodon proof, and he shows up, you can know it's a bunch of junk, in the factual sense. I'm gonna play a few clips from the movie, and let me know if they look familiar to you.
The video was shot by a father and a son who had come across a whale that had suffered a brutal attack. Now, the original footage was kind of hard to make out, but after studying it, and the amateur photos taken from the beach, you can clearly see a bite radius in the whale, and the bite radius is striking. There's only one underwater predator that would be able to bite the tail off of a whale this size, like has been done here.
What's the new evidence now? A satellite photo near Sao Paulo. Well, during the initial investigation, the agent who was studying the swarm noticed something out in the water.
Okay, kind of a speck.
Yeah, well, at this resolution, it's a speck. When they zoomed in, though, they got this.
It's a little fuzzy, but I'd say that's a shark.
Those are 40-foot buses, and when you compare them next to the first photo...
I don't know. That could totally be a whale. People forget that whales are kind of similar in, like, shape to sharks. And at that height, all you're seeing is tail and dorsal fins.
I'd say that's a 70-foot shark.
It's fake. I see evidence of photo editing.
You can't do that.
Right. Yeah, I saw some shark go by that didn't quite fit in.
What'd you make of this thing?
Well, at first I thought it was a great white with some kind of skin condition or...
Drake, did you have the same initial assessment? What was yours?
Well, it certainly is the size of a great white, but there's more going on than just the skin. Take a closer look at its back. You can see bumps along its spine.
Right there on both sides, right?
Yeah, that's more than just an abnormality. That's a genetic structural difference in its cartilage, which suggests a much sturdier animal.
So in your estimation, this is not a great white?
No, the shark in Australia is not an adult great white, it's a baby megalodon.
Those videos have 92 million views combined on TikTok. And that's just from one repost of it each. They've been reposted so many times. And from the quick scroll I did in the comments, no one is aware of the fact that these came from a documentary Discovery aired that turned out to be fucking fake. No one is aware of the fact that they came from the worst decision Discovery ever made. I mean, why would they? Probably half the people who watched that TikTok weren't even sentient when it came out. So now...
I love that she's calling them out constantly. She's like, screw you, Discovery.
Now it can make its rounds again in short form format. Of course, there's other forms of video evidence that make their rounds outside of the CGI from that movie. They're usually cases of mistaken identity, like this video that's been circulating since 2021. A giant shark spotted from a ship off the coast of Massachusetts. This is a basking shark, a giant shark alive today that is not the Megalodon. I'm gonna take a swift guess and say that every video you see of a giant shark that people think is the Megalodon is just a video of a basking shark. So what is a basking shark? The basking shark is the second largest fish alive today that we know of, right after the beloved whale shark. Their scientific name is Cedorhinus maximus, which translates to great-nosed sea monster. Understandable, I must say. Like whale sharks, basking sharks are generally slow-moving filter feeders. I say generally because they tend to move at like 2 miles an hour, but then also, on rare occasion, they do shit like this. Yeah, dude. I did not know basking sharks breached until I started researching for this video. That was taken by a diver named Vanessa Bohm back in 2021. So, that's cool as fuck. Anyway, basking sharks are so cool. Their default mode of locomotion is slowly moving through the water with their mouths, agape. They have these gill rakers that line the insides of their mouths to catch krill and plankton. And like I said, they're the second largest fish alive that we know of and can get to about 33 feet long. Generally, they're seen alone. But obviously, from the video, groups are spotted from time to time. And I want you to take a guess on the size of the biggest group ever spotted. 10? No. 50? No. 100? No. 1,000? Close. 1,398. Dude, the proof is right here.
David,
I'm not making this shit up.
footage right there.
That's a scary amount of just slow moving sharks, all with their mouth agape.
1,400 basking sharks found in a group. Nuts. But back to the reason I brought them up in the first place, the purpose of this video. So basking sharks are big, are less known than whale sharks, and I would also say don't have as much of a conspicuous silhouette as whale sharks do. Like, you see a whale shark from a bird's eye view, and you're like, that's a whale shark. Basking sharks, if you're not really familiar with them, kind of have a very general shark silhouette. Just generic big shark. I would say the classic shark from an aerial view has just a rounded or a slightly pointed snout, maybe like a tiger shark or a great white. And basking sharks kind of fall into that category, but look at the snout. It's very strong, powerful, apparent, hence the name great-nosed sea monster. So now you know. Hopefully if you come across a video of Megalodon evidence, you can say basking shark. Boom, done. So to recap, all of the video evidence of the Megalodon soiling the internet is either fake, i.e. photoshopped or CGI, or a case of mistaken identity and is probably a basking shark. But I know we can't stop there, because there's a chance you're thinking, okay, fine, well maybe all the evidence I've seen is fake, but what if we just haven't seen it? Let's refer back to paragraph 7 of this video, where I mentioned they were partially endothermic, which means they produced their own body heat. Producing body heat burns up a lot of calories.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it... Oh, it was a convention and all the sharks were pogging. No! Big shark is real. All I'm saying is maybe it's not warm-blooded anymore.
Your body heat is literally fire, Boka.
It is. Mine is.
You do that every day.
I seen the movie, Alan. Come
And
on.
the only way to restock calories as an animal is to eat. The Megalodon was very big, which means they had a very big appetite in order to sustain their energy requirements, which means they must have been restricted to the areas of the ocean that have consistent, easy access to fulfilling meals. Coastal ecosystems, and there's fossil evidence to support this. The Megalodon, like I said, was a fucking bulldozer, not an elusive shark. The most recent fossilized teeth come from over 2.5 million years ago, and we still have evidence of how much of a terror they were in the fossil record. Their teeth, embedded in the bones of their prey. Dude, there is a fossilized whale found from 15 million years ago that bent its spine, and it was most likely caused by a megalodon attack, with a tooth as evidence. If we can see its destruction in the fossil record, we would absolutely be able to find proof of its existence today. Like, without a doubt, that is megalodon evidence. An individual that washed up on the beach, wounds on prey that escaped, carcasses of their successful kills.
That's what I'm saying, though. I'm saying it's probably way down deep. And you don't get evidence because it's a voracious eater. It's huge. It wants lots of food.
And not just that one fucking CGI video that makes the whale look like it's made out of rubber. Like, an abundance of evidence. And we would see them all the time. Okay, then there's also the classic question, well, what if they live in the deep sea? The Mariana Trench, perhaps. The deep ocean is like the Sahara Desert times 10. It is a hellscape. Generally, there's nothing for thousands and thousands of miles, with the occasional deep sea oasis that could be permanent, maybe near hydrothermal vents, or temporary, maybe a whale fall, but nothing large enough to sustain the megalodon as a species. It can't possibly be a single shark. It's biologically impossible. It's completely unsustainable for a massive, ultra-predatory species that used to live at coastal waters, preyed on whales that weighed, like maybe 6,000 pounds minimum. But let's just say they did evolve to live in the deep sea, where food is wildly inconsistent, the pressure is nuts, it might as well be the landscape of a different planet to adapt to. Let's just say they did. The amount of adaptations they'd have to go through to be able to survive down there, first of all, would probably
Shark
be too
teeth
drastic
break
to have
up pretty
happened only
frequently
over
as
the course
well.
of 3 million
They have
years,
lots of
but
them
also,
and they can regenerate teeth very quickly.
Well,
would result in descendants that would be completely unrecognizable to the megalodon as
yeah, I'm saying, like, it's not going to look anything like a megalodon anymore. And it's going to be slightly smaller. I would say 60, maybe 70 feet maximum.
As we know it, they wouldn't be the Megalodon anymore. I know there's a chance you feel like this.
Yeah, I get that point, that it's not the Megalodon anymore. Yeah.
I sleep now.
Have a good night.
Doesn't make sense. How could such a massive, successful predator be extinct? If they were the best, why aren't they around anymore? Well, the reality is, their size only worked for them because of the conditions of their environment. Bigger is not always better. A larger size requires a massive diet, and a massive diet is a very sensitive one. The most successful lineages that have survived mass extinctions didn't do so because they were big, or the top predators. Actually, it has been pretty much the opposite. Generally, there's always exceptions to that, but in the general sense, their ability to go long periods without food.
All I'm saying is, there are some gigantic albino white alligators that live thousands of years. They kind of support my theory just a little bit.
Or survive off of small amounts of food has been the key to success during hard times. And evidence suggests this is exactly what happened. A global cooling took place at the end of the Pliocene, near the end of the road for the Megalodon. This led to thicker ice caps at the poles, which led to sea levels dropping all around the world, which meant the loss of many coastal habitats. Their prey species were having a tough time, which meant they were also having a tough time. And it seems as though the Megalodon might have been outcompeted by smaller counterparts. Yeah, the great whites. A single great white could get by on a much smaller amount of food than a single Megalodon, and that is that. I know this might be a huge buzzkill. The Megalodon potentially still being alive means there's still mystery in our world. It's fun to imagine that such big things haven't been discovered yet. The idea of—
Don't show me that picture from before. Don't show me that. I'm already terrified of the ocean, okay?
them being alive is incredible. But the world is so much cooler than just
I love swimming, and I love the ocean. But here's where the further away the bottom of the water is to my feet, the more I am not comfortable.
possibility of that. Some brittle stars can see without eyes. They have a whole different visual sensory network. Sponges in the deep sea look like alien lollipops. We're figuring out how to communicate with whales using AI. Basking sharks are huge and exist today and are not a danger to you. The current state of our ocean ecosystems is the product of 500 million years of evolution, shaped by apex predators like Anomalocaris, Mosasaurus, and the Megalodon. And while it might suck that they're not still alive, they still exist in the form of how they've impacted ecosystems over such a long period of time. The reality of our planet is so much cooler than our imaginations, and that is that. And if you like this video, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next video out on a disease that can only be compared to the Black Plague. Keep up with behind the scenes content and my Discord server and our Patreon. And for now, stay curious. The world has a lot for us to learn. See ya!